Look at it. If you saw this on Instagram, you would book a flight, you would pack a bag, you would want to stand at the edge of that water and take the most beautiful photo of your life. This lake is called Kawah Ijen. It sits inside a volcano in East Java, Indonesia. And yes, it is genuinely one of the most visually stunning places on the planet. It is also, chemically speaking, one of the most hostile liquids on Earth. The water you just fell in love with has a pH of 0.5. For reference, battery acid has a pH of 1. This lake is more corrosive than battery acid. A human hand submerged in Kawah Ijen would begin to dissolve within minutes. Not dramatically. Not like a movie. Just quietly, efficiently, like it was never there. The water you just fell in love with has a pH of 0.5. Kawah Ijen is what geologists call a hyperocetic crater lake. It sits at 2,400 meters above sea level, inside an active stratovolcano on the island of Java. And it holds approximately 200 million cubic meters of sulfuric acid solution. That is not a typo. 200 million cubic meters. The largest single body of highly acidic water anywhere on Earth. Beneath the lake, hydrothermal vents pump sulfur dioxide gas directly up through the water. When SO2 meets water, it forms sulfuric acid, continuously, endlessly. The lake essentially manufactures its own poison, around the clock, from the inside. The result is water so corrosive that it eats through metal equipment in weeks. Geological sampling instruments have to be replaced constantly. The crater walls themselves are being slowly dissolved by acidic mist. And the color? Is that extraordinary, impossible turquoise? That is the sulfur, suspended in solution, scattering light at a frequency that reads to the human eye as the most beautiful blue-green you have ever seen. Nature essentially disguised a vat of industrial acid as a swimming pool, and people fall for it. Every single time. But here is where this story gets complicated. Because Kawah Ijen is not just a deadly natural phenomenon, it is also a workplace. Every single morning before the sun rises, a group of men climb down into that crater, walk to the edge of the acid lake, and go to work. They are sulfur miners. What they do for a living is almost impossible to believe. The volcanic vents at the edge of the lake produce molten sulfur, a vivid orange liquid that flows out of clay pipes. The miners have rigged directly into the vents. The sulfur cools on contact with air and solidifies into bright yellow chunks. The miners break those chunks apart with iron rods. They load the pieces into wicker baskets, and then they carry those baskets, weighing between 70 and 100 kilograms, on wooden yokes across their shoulders. Up and out of the crater, down the volcano, to a weighing station at the base. That round trip is approximately 3 kilometers of steep. It's uneven terrain, carrying the equivalent of a full-grown adult on your back. They do it 2 to 3 times a day. For this, they earn between $5 and $15 per trip. There are no respirators, no hazmat suits, no safety protocols worth the name. The men wrap cloths around their faces or hold bottles of water to their mouths when the fumes get too thick. That is it. The sulfur dioxide they breathe every day causes chronic lung disease, eye damage, and corroded teeth. Most of the miners have the respiratory systems of much older men.
How many?
Many develop serious conditions in their 30s. One miner, Andy, who has worked the crater for over 20 years, told a journalist that he could no longer sleep lying flat because his lungs fill with fluid. He sleeps sitting up. Every night, he still goes back into the crater every morning. Because the sulfur is real money in a region where alternatives are scarce, the crater does not care about any of that. Now, let's talk about why Kawah Ijen has become, in recent years, a tourist destination. At night, the sulfur vents produce something that has no real parallel anywhere else on Earth. When the volcanic gases ignite on contact with oxygen in the dark, they burn blue, not orange, not yellow, blue. Bright, vivid electric blue flames that pour down the crater walls like liquid fire and pool at the edges of the acid lake. Photographers have called it the most visually surreal natural phenomenon they have ever witnessed. It looks like something from a science fiction film. It looks impossible, and people want to see it, so they come. Guided night tours take visitors into the crater in the small hours of the morning, past the miners, past the fumes, down to the lake's edge to photograph the blue fire. The tours are marketed as adventure travel. The guides carry oxygen masks for emergencies. The visitors mostly carry cameras. There is something deeply strange about that image. Two people, 10 meters apart, in the same extraordinary place for completely different reasons. One is having the experience of a lifetime. One is destroying his lungs to feed his family. The crater holds both of them, indifferently, in the same toxic air. Kawah Ijen is not alone. Vividly, deeply, apocalyptically red, colored by the halophilic bacteria that thrive in its extreme alkaline conditions, the pH here sits around 10.5, caustic enough to burn skin and eyes on contact. Animals that mistake its mirrored surface for safe water and land on it, flamingos. Swallows, eagles are sometimes calcified. The alkaline minerals coat their bodies. They harden. They become statues. Photographer Nick Brandt documented dozens of them. Preserved birds and bats. Frozen mid-pose at the water's edge. Perfect. Immovable. Dead. Lake Natron is also, ironically, the only known breeding ground for the East African lesser flamingo. Hundreds of thousands of flamingos nest there every year. It's the very thing that kills other animals, sustains an entire species. And then there is Lake Nyos. On the 21st of August, 1986, Lake Nyos in northwest Cameroon released a cloud of carbon dioxide gas so suddenly and so massively that it flowed down into the surrounding valleys like an invisible wave. It killed 1,746 people, in their homes, in their beds, in the fields, their livestock too, 3,500 cattle dead. The gas was odorless, colorless, and lethal. Many victims showed no external injuries at all. They simply stopped breathing. The event is called a limnic eruption, a sudden degassing of dissolved CO2 from a deep lake. It had never been observed killing humans on that scale before. Scientists didn't fully understand the mechanism until after the disaster. 3 lakes.
8.
3 completely different chemistries. 3 completely different ways of killing. And all of them beautiful. That is the part that stays with you. Every single one of them beautiful. We are wired as humans to trust beauty. It is an instinct so deep we barely notice it. Something gorgeous cannot be dangerous. Something that looks like paradise cannot be a trap. Kawah Ijen, Lake Natron, Lake Nyos, they exist as a direct refutation of that instinct. They are proof that the planet does not care about our aesthetics. That acid and beauty are not mutually exclusive. That something can be simultaneously the most stunning thing you have ever seen, and completely indifferent to whether you live or die. The miners of Kawah Ijen understand this better than anyone. They do not photograph the blue fire. They do not post it to Instagram. They move through it in the dark with wooden poles and wicker baskets, focused entirely on the weight on their shoulders and the air in their lungs. They know what that lake is. The question is whether the rest of us are paying attention. There are places on this planet that will dissolve you, calcify you, or suffocate you, and they will look like screensavers while they do it. That is not a metaphor. That is geology. If this video got under your skin, that is exactly the point. Kaya Studio covers the stories that are too strange, too dark, and too real to look away from. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay curious about the things that unsettle you. Those are always the most interesting ones.